fight the proxy. It's a dead Oracle. It's only 4 dead drones. This is not worth it. Now, Adepts are making it worth it. 8 workers are going to go down. And this is a little bit better, but you got to keep that Oracle alive. The bottom right in the blue, he's playing for Onside. He's the GSL Season 3 champion. It's Solar. Apparently a Yankees fan. On the upper left for Twisted Minds, the best Protoss player when he wants to be is Classic. And this is our second series, of course. We had Dark 2-0 Oliveira just moments ago, which means Dark is 1-0 in the Swiss stage. Oliveira is 0-1 in the Swiss stage. The loser of this series is going to get put in the pool with Oliveira and 8 other players. The winner of this series is going to get put in a pool with Dark and 8 other players. So we're going to see what's going to happen. I don't know. Of course, you need 3 victories to get out. You need 3 losses to get knocked out. That is how that works. And I'm actually excited about this series. I mean, generally I like talking about Starcraft. It's a lot of fun, but in this series, this is a Classic that should have beaten Dark in the round of 8 Atlanta if he didn't throw multiple games away. This is a Classic that has taken down Solar 2-1 at Gamers 8 and probably could have 2-0'd him if he didn't throw literally 10,000 resources, 10,000 minerals worth of zealots away and run bys that had no hope of ever working. So this is a Classic that is a very good TVZ when he wants to. And that's why I said in the intro, you know, he is the best Protoss player in the world when he plays like the best Protoss player in the world, when he wants to be. Because the weird thing about Classic is that in current day and age, he has days where he is looking incredible. He was top 4 in the GSL. He lost only to Gumiho. That's incredible. That's a really good run for him. And I think if he had found himself on the other side of the bracket running into Solar, I think he might have been able to make the finals, maybe. Dark's always a hard matchup for him for whatever reason. Dark is Chaos Incarnate. Classic is not. So that's always something that is difficult for... It seems like Dark is just a really bad matchup for Classic. And actually, we talked about this on the recent Real Talk Strategy podcast, where it's like, Classic is really good and has had some incredible runs, but in a lot of the tournaments, I don't think Gumiho necessarily is a really good example of this, but running into Dark in Atlanta, running into Cure when he made the playoffs at Gamers 8, he has just had kind of some of the worst possible matchups for him, because it's like, when I looked at Gamers 8, I looked at the 8 player, or the 12 players remaining, I guess, 12 players in the round of 12 out of Gamers 8, or it was a round of 8, whatever it was. I looked at the 8 at the 12 players, and I thought Classic stood up really realistic shot against 6 of the remaining of the 7 that was not Classic. And then there was Cure, and I'm like, I don't think Classic beats Cure. I think he might beat anyone else. And then he runs into Cure, and it's like, well, okay, that doesn't feel particularly good. Just some really bad luck there. And then I looked at playoffs here, and I'm like, oh, maybe a little harder. We saw Classic. He did take a map off Clem in the group stage, so there was that, but it's a little bit harder. I don't think Classic was quite as in form in Atlanta as he was in Saudi in August. So there is that. But anyways, this is a different game. This is a Glaives opening coming out of Classic in game 1, which is interesting because we just don't see it all that often. We really, we'll see Stargate openers all over the place, but but Glaives play? Not really. So Solar should be somewhat aware of what's happening. She's the Stalker, and I think there were 2 Adepts made, Stalker and the Adept made. He saw when Warp Gate was done. He was getting started. He sees when Warp Gate's done now, so he got himself a bit quicker of a Roach Warren, 345, 4-minute Roach Warren, making sure, actually really gets close to do a 330 Roach Warren, making sure that he's gonna have that tech that he needs to make sure and that he can handle all these Adepts. Because Solar should absolutely know what's happening right now. He attacked in, a bunch of Adepts were warped in. He's gonna see the Warp Prism as well. He knows what's up. He is well aware of what exactly is happening. He doesn't know the gateway count. He doesn't know if it's 3 or 4, which that can make a big difference, actually. There has been some plays. Zhaon was a player that really liked this. There's been some experimentation with 3-gate Glaives instead of 4-gate, where you go and you actually expand off of it a little bit faster, and it's a greedier build. maybe Classic's pantomiming some of that, but this is 4 gig blades. And for now, the Shades, they're going to look for an angle to... Yeah, okay, they will commit into the natural here. They get on top of a bunch of Queens, and the Queens, they don't have a ton of energy, so ideally, obviously, you'd love to get drones, but Classic, you've kept Solar on 40, and if you snipe all the Queens, that's a really big deal, but for now, he's not really getting a lot. He's got 3 drones, didn't get a single Queen. He's going to have to head out of here for the time being. Any more warp ins, though? That's the question. And it looks like the answer is, yeah, there are a couple more, but most of them have gone down. So there's only 4 depths really remaining. As they think about, they could have shaded in. That was undefended third base, but I guess they didn't want to. So for now, instead, it's going to be an attempted drop in the main base, playing around with having a Warp Prism and also having a depth that can shade around all over the place. And it's funny how this works, where half the time it does feel that, like, the first attack doesn't really do a ton. It sets the stage, but it's the random 2 or 3 adepts that show up later on that really do the damage here. So 10 drones have died. Actually, it's going to be a couple more than that as an adept will finally go down, but not a lot of adepts left, but certainly a lot of damage getting done here. And Solar's going to be less happy about his hold. He's on 43 drones still. He's building more drones, building more lanes, building more roaches. He's got a lair, certainly Roachborn on the way, but Classic is doing such a nice job here with this Warp Prism. 19 dead drones, and the Warp Prism only taking shield damage. Not taking any hull damage whatsoever, which means that this can just stay around for quite a while now. And that just means that he's got more time for more Immortals to pop out, for 3 probes to get made at a time, and as the single adept is just getting a shift clicked on top. The amount of this is rapidly becoming unsustainable. Yeah, the first hold was really nice, but again, we didn't have Classic commit to a ton of adepts. Not really. He just backed up, played around, and went from there. And now we've got it all incoming. This is a build, actually. This is pretty cool. When Zest first iterated upon this adept glaive timing back in Katowice in 2021, 2020, I think it was even 2019. This was the follow-up. You get damage done, but it wasn't 100% holding on the adepts. It was, you get a lot of damage done, the adepts can still be tanking the mid-game. You build 3 or 4 immortals, you get some sentries, and you turn this into an adept immortal sentry timing off of the damage you get done. And that's exactly what Classic's looking for right now. Now, the run-by is a problem because, well, it's going to force a warp-in back at home. That's not where Classic wants to be spending his warp-ins. The files are going to hit a couple of the immortals, but remember, Immortals are much stronger than they were 3-4 years ago. And well, yeah, the force fields, they eventually get knocked down, but not before they do tremendous damage. 4 Immortals are still here. They're still around, and the Ravagers, they're just getting shoved down. Files aren't really landing at this point, and this army of Solar, Solar's just dead. He's absolutely dead. Game 1 goes the way of Classic. The upper right in the blue. He's down a game in the series because the depths were really good. His name is Solar. The bottom left in the red and Alcyone is Classic. What are we going to get? I imagine that this is going to be a much more standard game. This is going to be a game that is much more normal, much more reasonable. And by that, I mean it's probably going to be a Stargate opener. Although Solar is able to pull the wool, or not even pull the wool, but he's going to be allowed to get his natural at his natural. Because, well, we didn't see Classic go for much of a scout. We don't see him going for the earliest possible probe to go and get the block off. He checks to make sure that there's not some sort of dark-esque proxy shenanigan, proxy natural at his gold type of shenanigans, which I shouldn't even say proxy natural, proxy hat shenanigans at Classic's own natural, and that's not going to happen. In fact, we talked about reverting to the norm, reverting to standard play. Well, Classic is in fact, Solar is in fact going for that standard play, 16, 18, 17. And it's so nice as a Zerg player when you can pull this off, when your opponent doesn't send the probe ASAP, because what that means is that your queens, you get another drone out. Your queens line up so much nicer. This build not even from an efficiency perspective. It is marginally more efficient, but just from a macro cycle perspective, it is so nice because you get 2 queens at the same time. You get creep spreading, like it just everything lines. You get more supply. You have to build. You can build an overlord a little bit later. Everything lines up so much nicer if you're able to go 16 hatch. Like such a big deal. And of course, if you getting hatch blocked is even worse because then you lose money on long distance mining. It's harder to deal with the depths, but Solar's happy regardless. That being said, we got a Twilight Council coming in game number 2. So I thought we were going to see the different build coming out of Classic. Well, he's of the opinion, I guess, where if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If your Adepts in the Warp Prism got 25 drones or whatever it was, and then your Adept follow-up was able to just annihilate Solar, then yeah, do it again. Do it again. Why not? Your opponent's proven that they can't. Well, you've proven it once that your opponent can't really go and they can't stop it. Although the other perspective is like, well, Solar wasn't expecting it 100% in game 1. He's maybe not as practiced against it because Glaive Adepts are not a particularly common build. But if you do it 2 times in a row, Solar's going to be going into the second game saying, well, I know what you did, and I know what I need to do to stop it. Because I know how this works. You know, I've been around. I've been around a long time. In fact, outside of Trigger, there are very few players that are at the top level of StarCraft right now that haven't been around for at least like 5 or 6 years. So it's, if you try to throw something out that's weird because it's off meta, sure, yeah, it'll work once maybe. But they're gonna reach back in their memory banks. They're gonna say, yeah, I know how to solve this, and that's not even giving this build its credit. The Glaive build is off meta right now, but it's not uncommon. It's absolutely not uncommon to see that happen. So Classic is going to go for the same build again. Third base getting it started around 450-ish is what I think he did last time. And, well, questions whether it works as well as it did the first time. Solar. I should have been looking. I'm actually not sure if he's got a Roach Warren, but he finds himself pretty close to big supply blocks. So, okay, Roach Warren done. Roaches are on the way. Building 5 overlords at a time here, making sure that he can just get everything out that he could possibly want. As more Adepts are they're going to warp in. Glaive's done in about 5 seconds. And Classic here. Oh, somehow a Ling gets into the main base. So it's going to be a full scout of everything. And that's a big deal. And there are so many more queens to the front line. Game 1 worked because it just really was not a ton of defense at first, which meant Classic was able to bounce around, get some damage done, and then have his Warp Prism get even more damage done. With 5, 6 queens on the map, so many more Lings, so many more Roaches. That's a very different story. As Adepts try to get on top of the queens, I think they're going to get 1. And the Adepts in the main base are just not going to get anything at all here. Roaches, Lings on top of things. So a couple drones will go down. A couple Lings will go down. But let's be real here. Classic needs more. He needs to get more than he possibly has. Shades in the natural. But there's an army already on top of it. And 5 drones does not make this worthwhile at all. 6 drones doesn't. 10 drones won't. We got to be at like 20. We got to be at 25 total to justify the commitment here that Classic's on for. He got that last time. Like the first bit of attack didn't get a ton of damage. It was the follow-up. It was the Warp Prism and the main base and the natural that got everything, but Solar's going to be on the lookout for it this time. He's going to be aware of what he has to be afraid of. He's going to be handling it. He's going to have his army split maybe just a little bit better. And the unfortunate thing is that Classic has to commit to this. He can't allow this to go unpunished. He can't allow the amount of damage that he did just to be what it is. So he's going to try to go in once again. This time only 3 queens. And that is killable, maybe, if you get on top of it. But instead, well, Roach Lings are going to get on top, and the Warp Prism gets so low as well. And Classic, it seems like he's going for the similar idea. He's got an Immortal on the way, 19 dead Adepts. And he's going to try to go for this attack once again, I think, adding in more gateways now, adding in a forge, but game 1 worked because he killed about 30 workers. game 2 he has not gotten that damage whatsoever. So while when Classic attacked, Solar had, I forget, he had just about the same amount of army supply, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. In this game, Solar is gonna hit that Roach button. He's gonna hit that Ravager button. He's gonna hit that Ling button. And Classic's not gonna have the army that you're looking for. And of course, Solar as well doing such a good job with these Lings. Such a good job making sure that Warpins have to get spent at home. Now the 4th base is going to get canceled, but it's an immortal drop. It is limited in the scope and scale of the damage it can get done right now. There's just, the army of Solar is just too big. So he's got +1 ranged on the way. He's got Roach speed on the way, Failing speed on the way. This Warp Person has to be so careful because it took so much damage to the hull earlier on. And now here comes Solar. He's got a lot of Roaches on the map. Now, Immortals are always scary, and certainly they're much stronger than they previously were, but Solar, he's going to get him in depth for his troubles, pops Guardian Shield, and I think we're just going to see him max out. Has he got his 4th base on the way? Sure, a big max out timing. This is double Robo Disruptor. Link's just about done. Solar's got a lead, absolutely, but if he attacks into like 6 disruptors and doesn't have the splits properly, which is really hard off creep as a Roach, he doesn't have the splits going down right. This is still a possibility. This is still a viable game for Classic, even as he sits down 33 army supply and is generally not all that happy. But here comes Solar. Bailing's on the way. Bailing speed done very soon. It looks like maybe 20-25 seconds. Disruptor is going to get a Raptor. Very nice. Second shot. Got to go out. A couple more Roaches here. And that's a good start, but you need more disruptions. They're going to start in the field right now when they get zoned out by Lings in the wall. And it doesn't get a single shot at all. So it's all going to be down to the Roaches, or it's all going to be down to the Immortals now. And the Stalkers, and one Immortal's dead. One Prism's on the other side. It maybe died. I don't know. Disruptor's dead as well. Classic's dead. Classic is extremely dead in this game. Stalkers are going to try to warp as they can, but they blinked before the Biles fall, so a lot of Biles hit. And yeah, Classic may force this back a little bit, but it's about the reinforcements. It's about the Lings that come filtering, and it's about the fact that 26 probes have hit the deck. Actually, it's 32 now. I'm doing the Demu thing where I'm counting things as they happen. I'm like, it's 3,000 resources loss differential. It's 4, it's 5, it's 6. It's Classic. He falls down. Game 1, or Game 2 goes the way of Solar. Upper left, into the blue. He tied it up. Depths did not get damage done this time. It's Solar going for a 15 hatch, 15 pool. And the bottom right in the red. He's for Twisted Minds now. It's Classic. Although I guess he was for Twisted Minds before as well. I can't really... nothing changed over the course of it. Well, I guess the score changed and what players have done changed, but nothing much changed over the course of this game in terms of who they played for. So the thing that I'm paying attention to is that this is a 15 hatch coming out of Solar. So this 15-15 is a build that has become popular, and the entire point of it is if you think Classic's going to hatch block you, that's how you can make sure you can get your hatchery down faster while still being somewhat economical. I mean, you could go for a 14 hatch, but I don't recommend it. That's not a good idea. So he goes for that. He gets his hatchery up as quick as possible. Now the game goes on. We move just a little bit further forward. And what again I'm looking at here is whether Classic is gonna go and whether he's gonna opt into the Twilight build once again. It worked game 1. It really didn't work in game 2. And I don't know that I want to see him do it in game 3. I think that's a build. The Adept Glaive build is a build that this is not 2019. This is not 2020 anymore. You know, this is not. Oh, okay. Well, pay attention to what's going proxy. But this is not Katowice 2019 where you can do it every single game and beat every single Zerg until you lose to Raynor in the finals. It's a build that has been figured out. Zerg players know that you get up to 41 drones, you get 3 gases, you effectively have 2 base saturation on minerals and on 3 gas, and you build a lot of roaches and you're fine. But it's a proxy Stargate. It's a proxy Stargate coming out of Classic in this game number 3, and this is wild. This is not expected at all. Now, if Solar scouts this, he's gonna. If Solar saw the warp gate timing, he would know that this is in fact a Stargate play because the warp gate's late. Started around like 2:33, and anything after 2:30 generally means Stargate play. But he's not going to be expecting it to get scouted or to be proxied. And because it's proxied, I'm almost wondering if we're going to get like a fleet beacon. This is some sort of proxy Tempest shenanigans. Classic's been known to do that. It's just going to be an Oracle. This feels extra spicy for no good reason. I mean, it does arrive a little bit faster, and an Overlord Scout wouldn't really see it, but you don't, Overlord Scouting in the main base, I mean, an Oracle would be showing up in the next 10 seconds anyways. If you're dropping an Oracle Spore, you drop it at 3:30. I don't really know what Classic is. What Classic's. I guess he's gonna get away with it. It's gonna be good for him because Overlord scouts the main base and doesn't see anything. But Oracles are gonna fly in now. It's 2 of them in Classic, and Solar has no idea whatsoever here. Queens are somewhat in position, but it's gonna be 3 workers down to start, pulled away. And despite the proxy, it's a dead Oracle. It's only 4 dead drones. This is not worth it. Now, Adepts are making it worth it. 8 workers are going to go down. And this is a little bit better, but you got to keep that Oracle alive. 10, 11, 12 workers go down. And yeah, we're going to see this. We're going to see the pylon go down, but the base should survive. This is the second problem with proxying it. That you don't have an Oracle in the main base that can rally onto the natural and immediately keep your base, or onto your 3rd base and keep the base alive. Another Oracle's gonna dive in. And you gotta be careful with this. Classic, getting a couple more. This is starting to get worthwhile. This is starting to get good. And it's 1 Oracle, 4 Adepts for 15 drones, 18 Lings. That's worth doing, and especially with so many Lings having been made here as well to try to deal with the base, get a run by going, something like that. Solar all of a sudden has to get damage done with these Lings because he's taking so much damage on the other side. Oracle dies in. Classic, I guess Solar has been trying to play greedy and not getting spores just to make up for it, but now we're 20 dead drones. It's not 6 minutes, it's not even 6 minutes in, and Solar has taken so much damage. Ridiculous amounts of damage. Now the stasis trap's gonna trap a single drone. It's not that big of a deal. But the fact that, I guess good news for Solar is he didn't get spores. If you want to think about it like that, is more drones die. Is that he didn't get spores, so he's up a couple workers compared to where he would like to be. But it's rough, guys. This is not looking good for a GSL champion. He's in a rough spot behind this. Link's on the way, Swan's on the way, Gateways on, adding in Gateways, a Robo. So it's gonna take a moment for Classic to actually kill Solar now that he's in this position, because Solar has done a decent job defensively, or actually better way to say that, Classic has gone and is developing his tech right now. He's not gonna have an army that he can necessarily push with, but give him like 2 minutes, maybe even less. You give him like a minute and a half, and he's gonna be in a wonderful position. He's gonna have Blink Stalkers. He's gonna have +1. He's gonna have a Warp Prism. In fact, he's getting ready for all of that right now. Warp Prism's on the way for Face because this is a macro game and you love to have that. But this army that Classic's gonna move out with, even before he starts spending all of his warpins, he's sitting at even army supply with the Zerg player, which is, again, I know I keep pile driving on this just not being good for Solar, but I wouldn't lie to you. Yeah, this is a situation right now where this army that Classic has made is nigh untouchable. And Solar going for a quick hive, I guess. I can't even really imagine why, because he spending the money. No, that's not what it is. This is for infestors. This is the only option that he really has. You get a good fungal, you lock the Blink Stalkers in place, they can't take the fight, you drop miles on top of their heads. That has to be your solution. That really is the only one. And it's just not going to be here in time. Baneling Nest on the way, +1 melee, halfway done. Stalkers blink on top of the Queens, and they're down very quickly. The force builds are fantastic as well. And this is just not an army that Solar can fight. He is down 6, 8, 10 army supply with a bunch of roaches, and these are +1 Blink Stalkers. Classic is not Tardik. He's not Hero. We don't know him for his Blink Stalker control quite as much as one of those micro greats, but he is absolutely in an up-supply position. Honestly, he doesn't even need a micro. He's doing it because he's good, but he doesn't even need to have to at this point. This army is untouchable, it's unbreakable, it's indefensible, and Solar's gonna get knocked down to this 0-1 match. There isn't anything that he can do to stop this at this point. He took too much damage to the Oracles and to the Adepts and everything else, and Solar's dead. Classic moves on to the 1-0 match, 2-1.